Welcome to the Sacred Feminine Power podcast, where we explore the many facets of feminine power and why it is so important for women and for men to step into this power in our world at this time. This is Emmy from Feminine Revered, and my beautiful guest for today is Mary Madeiras. Mary is an advanced Akashic Records practitioner, author, and three-time Emmy Award-winning television director, whose career bridges the worlds of spiritual transformation and broadcast storytelling. She has opened the Akashic Records for individuals and corporations around the world, offering soul level guidance, healing, and divine remembrance. Her book, The Akashic Way, Living Through the Lens of the Akashic Records, shares direct transmissions from the records as a sacred offering for humanity's evolution. Mary's celebrated directing career spans news, talk shows, sports, and even top-rated daytime dramas, including General Hospital and Another World, earning her 3 Emmy Awards and a Directors Guild of America Award. Her creative life and spiritual practice now exist in a living collaboration where divine wisdom informs every story she tells. That is so beautiful, Mary. I am so excited and honored to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I love what you do. Love what you do. Keep doing it.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much for that. And I am super excited to see where our conversation takes us today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because my podcast is called Sacred Feminine Power, I love to start by asking my guests, what does sacred feminine power mean to you personally?
Um, well, it's interesting because I think that sacred feminine, for me, what I have come to learn and breathe life into is that sacred feminine is just the embodiment of everything sacred, right? Everything sacred. So sacred exists as sacred feminine. We refer to Gaia as she. Gaia is the feminine matrix of love and the source of all. And I don't think that's an accident. And we know because of patriarchy throughout the thousands of years that has been allowed to sort of grow. We know that the idea of Gaia in her beauty and the feminine power was not invented by patriarchy. Right. And it's so powerful that it has risen up. The idea of the feminine power or the feminine, the sacred power of feminine has risen up through the ages, through everything that we could, every negative thing we could have gone through as a humanity. What rises always and shows up as strength is the divine feminine. This is what Andrew Harvey speaks to a lot, which is that divine. He discovered divine feminine and the divine mother, which transformed his life. So, I think a lot of people think they might think when they hear, sacred feminine that it's just women. No, no, no. It's an energy. And it's an energy that all is well all the time. And and that's very powerful because that energy reflects and it's a mirror image of source itself. So sacred feminine is everything, and it is what is going to, what I hear from the records is this energy rising up again in her beauty is what will balance the earth into the new earth, and it's happening. If we look, we can see. So yeah.
I love that. I love how you're bringing through that all encompassing energy of the sacred feminine and emphasizing how she is really truly rising now, and we can all sense that, feel that, see it, hear it, however we are sensing the world in our own unique ways. But she is there at all times, and she rises, as you say, especially during those challenging and tough times, which
Yes.
humanity certainly is going through at the moment. So
Yes. Yes.
thank you for
Well,
sharing.
and I want to add is that, this I think there's not a person on this planet that would not agree with this statement. Oh, we're in chaotic times. But what's interesting is, we are to say this, but no, we're not. It's an illusion. Yes, there are bad things that we can look with our eyes in third dimension and see, But if we really look at those things that are happening, there's love there's evidence of love and divine feminine inside and within all of these perceived chaotic events. And it's up to the light worker, men and women who are accessing their own divine feminine to, I get shown this image of pulling out the golden sword. Archangel Michael has a golden sword. To say we can't sit in a corner. We have to take out the golden sword and lead right into it. We've got to infuse it with that divine feminine through love, compassion, and joy. And so what that does is it poofs it, the perceived chaos just goes away immediately. We can see it in events where, well, certainly weather events. What happens is when there are those kinds of what we call crises, people show up for each other and they don't care how divided they are. All of a sudden, it doesn't matter. They're just there because we're inherently about that. We are inherently sacred, divine feminine, all of us. And so that's what shows up because that's the power, and then later people can think about it and perceive it and write about it, the event, and then then the divisions can happen again. But those are perceptions. That's not real. That's not real. What's real is love.
So very true. And I'm sure we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this in just a moment as well. But I love how you're bringing in this aspect because the divine feminine holds both the creation and the destruction codes. She is both. And sometimes we do need to go through, as you say, illusions of destruction for us to really, truly step into what comes next.
The downloads, well, what I've been receiving, I'll say, from the Akashic realm are concepts that are a little bit head turning in a good way. And one is this, that the future Earth, which I've been shown, is really how we began. And what it looks like is 100% unity consciousness, no duality, no need for the shadow to see the light, no need to have chaos in order to experience our own light. What I understand is happening is divine feminine is using what will shake us up to see our power, our inner power of light, because humanity responds to that. That's been our history. Wars, negative things, right? People being harmed and stuff like that. So it's almost like she's moving in front of us what we're already used to in order to crack us back open again. But that future that I see, there is no duality. And most people would disagree with that. I mean, a lot of people will. There are books written about the need for duality. And divine shows me, no, there will be none. And you began as a human race as no duality. That's pretty deep.
That is pretty deep, absolutely. And certainly something to look forward to and kind of keep in our consciousness as we wade through the 3D experience, which can be happening at times. So absolutely beautiful. Well, I have a feeling we'll dive into this again a little bit later on as well, because I'm getting a lot of questions coming through right now around that as well. But I would love to hear, Mary, a little bit more about your own personal experience as well. And if you could share about a challenge that you have faced on your path that's really helped you to activate that sacred feminine power within you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a living example of having experienced the divine energy, for me, it was in my first part of my career, because I was a woman working in an industry, especially when I began at CBS News in New York. There were no female directors, and even in production, it was mostly men. And I wondered why during that time, because I was a lot younger, and I wondered, why did I choose this? It's so tough. It was tough because I was passed over again and again when it was time for me to go to the next level, beyond what you can imagine. And I had this resilience. So on some inner level, I must have known it's important for me to do this, to show what we must do. Now, of course, I'm talking about being a woman in a very male-oriented business. And so I became, I was a trailblazer, but I didn't know it. And what I have brought to the table of a masculine run, even to this day, the entertainment industry, is this idea that it's not about feminine and masculine. It's just about the person. And I always was just this person who felt the same about men and the same about women in business. But the men and the women were trying to create differences. The men are doing this and women only do that. And I would kind of come in the middle of it and with my energy and go, but no, that's not fair. That's not right. Things like that. So I navigated my way through and would wait and then get to the next level, get to the next level. And eventually I became a director, but not before being passed over on many of the shows by men, including the very last final, I mean, not final, but the most profound event for me was I was working on my 7th soap opera. It was General Hospital at ABC. And interesting that a woman my boss was a woman, and I was under contract. And the way it worked was our contracts would be renewed mine was 6 months. Yet I had to commit to the network for 3 years, but they could do anything they wanted every 6 months. So what happened was this was a woman I knew who gave me my first contract in New York, and she had moved out to the West Coast. And she brought me up into her office one day and said, "I'm not renewing your contract." And I had been working already like almost 30 years, never had that happen. I went around to every actor. I don't even remember the excuse she gave me. But what's interesting is after I left and the floor came out from under me, it was just the most devastating time in my life. And she hired all men after me on the team of directors and always had men around her. And even said to me one day in the parking lot of the studio while smoking a cigarette, she was smoking a cigarette, and she said, "Mary, I've learned how to play the network game with all the boys." And I thought, wow. And this was, not that long ago to have this happening again, right? And so it's interesting that one of my therapists at that time coined her a woman in drag. Because she embodied male energy, patriarchal energy. I'm going to run everything and I'm going to fire you and let you go and let you go. And apparently she had a history of doing that. I didn't even realize it. Okay, so the gift, though, you're probably going to get to the gift of this, right? What?
Please go ahead. Yeah, I'd love to hear.
And at the time, I had no idea. I went around to every actor. I think this is a part of the stories in my book. But I asked every one of the actors, and some of the actors were the top in daytime drama. And I specifically asked them, is there something I've missed? Is there something that I could do better? What do you think? And they didn't know what I was speaking about. They asked me, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, I'm not coming back. In a few months, I'm gone." And they were like, are you crazy? Are you joking with us? And I was like, "No, I just want to know, is there something I didn't see in my work?" And they were like, "No, you're one of the best directors we ever worked with." And they all hands down said that. And I thought, okay, that's all I need to know, because my greatest relationships in business were with the actors. And so I walked away still with the entire world dropped out from under me because it was all I had known. And I had already been seeking on the side, following Eckhart Tolle, following, the usual suspects, I like to say, in higher conscious and ascended masters, I'll say, among us, Paramahansa Yogananda. I was going to SRF while I was still working at the studio. So I was pre-paving and didn't realize something. And then I through a psychic reading that might seem random, but I know it wasn't. I was shown an energy that was over me, and it was a male energy that he said that he guarded my Akashic records. And I was like, what are those? And the psychic wasn't sure. So I went and looked it up, and it wasn't like choirs went off. I just knew it. There was something that I gently, which is another clue to our soul's journey, and hearing, meeting up with our own reason that we're here. It becomes easy, not difficult. And so there started, then I started opening records on my own, working on my own wounds and past lives and things like that. And then I decided to go into studying the Akashic Records. And the thing is, I'm now incorporating, I'm writing, and I'm writing, I write screenplays and writer. My records showed me as a writer. And I was arguing with my own records, saying, no, I'm not, I'm a director. My records were like, no, there's an imprint here, Mary, that shows you as a writer. And it will be so easy that you will question it. That's exactly what happened. But the resilience, getting back to sort of sacred feminine, I was always kind. I brought kindness to the table because when I was little, that's what I thought people were. I believed that. And now I know I'm right, but I had a family that did not believe that. And so that kindness I brought in, and it was authentically me. I assumed that everybody was really good, and I still do. And so I got in, I'll say, in trouble working in a very tough entertainment industry arena. The arena I was in, very tough. You're not allowed to be kind. You can't, you can't, there's no joy, it's got to be really painful. And, you're too nice. I was told I was too nice. You're too kind to the actors. I was actually told that by that same woman who let me go. Yeah. Too kind to them. And, divine feminine doesn't sit in the background. Divine sacred feminine comes forward. And when I was asked, or when I was accused, that's how the energy that came at me of that, I would stand right up and go, wait a minute. The actors need support. They need to know they have to have the freedom for their craft to be the best that they can. When they are the best, your show becomes the best. The advertisers are happy and the ratings go up and everyone wins. So in other words, I never just shut up. I would say, wait a minute. When it was kindness and love, nothing can get in front. Nothing can knock me down. I'll just say that. And I think that's the power of the divine feminine. She's not, divine feminine energy is not afraid of anything because we have we're source. And there's nothing can knock source out or down. Nothing. And so my hope for people, the people I work with especially, that do come to their own records, is that they could experience that they are that. It's not some, I say, bearded man in the clouds. It's not some concept outside of ourselves. It's inside every one of us. And I knew that, but I didn't consciously know it. But in retrospect, I was operating out of that. It was in my cells that I knew that people were beautiful and that we're all the same. And I always treated everybody the same way. And that kind of angered a lot of people around me because there are hierarchies in the entertainment industry. Well, in many industries. Look at the economic world, right?
Sure.
Or politics.
Oh, absolutely. I think all the systems and structures that we have grown up trusting and believing in many, many ways are built on hierarchies and within this patriarchal mindset and structuring of our world. And I can certainly see why you would have stuck out like a sore thumb in that industry by rooting into love and kindness and compassion.
I stuck out like a sore thumb to those who were in that illusion. That's an illusion. And I so wish more and more of us can come to realize that patriarchal, the damaging aspect of the patriarchy it's part of the collective ego conscious that's in my book. It's an illusion and it's a trick, because when majority of the people that I worked with in my whole career were men. And what I found was, I like to say they were actually underneath the bullies, the bully energy, the patriarchal bully energy. They were pussycats. They were like so easy. But it's like on the surface, they were like you know, scary at times, unless you were in your divine feminine, that part, that not the girl, but the divine feminine that goes, wait a minute, what? And then really met them. And I noticed too that men like that, in terms of like if it is in men, they they would appreciate that. They were the men who wound up actually liking me and my work. And I would think, oh no, they hate my work because they were mean or whatever. But then I would meet them right where they were. It took a lot of energy. I'm going to say that. A lot of energy, because we shouldn't have to do that.
Mm.
But I think that the illusion of the patriarchy is crumbling, right? What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. It is for sure crumbling. And I think in a way, the so-called, again, this is part of the illusion, but the so-called powers that be that are running the show and holding the strings behind the scenes, I think are shaking in their boots at the moment because
Yes.
many of us are rising up and standing in our power and truly remembering and embodying our divinity. And in the face of that, there are no structures and systems that are part of patriarchy that can stand, that can survive. So there's a lot of people out there who are really scared at the moment. And yeah,
We know who they are.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I think that the so-called battle has already been won. And we're witnessing the kind of like the death throttles of that system
Yes.
that's held
Yes.
such a stronghold for thousands of years.
And what I think too is I'm getting this urge, I'll say, from Source itself through my work to go around that, the shaking in the boots, folks, um, or collective, that we just go around it. It's interesting. It reminds me of martial. There's a certain, I don't know if it's all of martial arts, but in martial arts, the theory, one theory is that when your enemy's coming at you, right, with energy, you just simply go like this, and
Mhm.
which is effortless. You just go like this, and they go into the wall and hurt themselves or whatever. And it's kind of like it's like that. It's not we're not meant to meet this head on. Maybe in history there were times when that was needed, but I keep hearing no, 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 no. The new earth is being created, whether we like it or not. I love it. And so we have to come together, like what we're doing right here, and create the new, that new love rules, together. And that may mean new systems, new ideas, new inventions, and doing it without having to feed back into that system that's crumbling, the patriarchal aspects of that. And so it is happening. I mean, look at YouTube. And it's happening. Oh gosh, it's happening. Writing, the information that's flowing out there, and the access we have to information is is immense. And the at least in the United States, the major television networks are just losing. People are turning away from them because they're just a bunch of lies and perceptions that are not real. And so people are now creating their own truth news, their own way of speaking the new earth and what we really are. It's a very beautiful time. So we have to keep encouraging each other to do that.
Mm.
Anytime somebody comes to me and says, especially if it's a woman, well, I'm not sure. I want to do documentaries about this, but there aren't enough women. And I always say to them, you have to keep doing it. Yes, there are women out there doing it. You must do it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow, such a potent message. Thank you for sharing that with us, Mary.
Hmm.
As you've been talking, I've become really curious about whether you've opened the records for Hollywood ever, or the corporations that are kind of like at the top level within Hollywood.
Well, that's a great question. No, not Hollywood as a collective. When I open the records of an well, I just haven't, because also I guess I would have to do like each studio. I would have to do like, Paramount, or because the what's challenging in that too is there isn't one entity anymore.
Mhm.
It might be called Paramount, but then it's owned by some corporation that is then multi other corporations, and it's just tiered up and up, follow the money, right? So what would I be opening? It's if it had been Walt Disney, that would be different because Walt Disney was a man, a person who created Walt Disney, and that would be easier. But even now, Walt Disney is a corporation that has other partners and more money coming from all sorts of sometimes not really positive places. I'll just say that. So no, I haven't done that. I have opened up the records of corporations. However, when the CEO or the founder is interested in knowing or clarifying a new direction, or maybe it's not going as well as they thought. And that is really beautiful because the CEO received the idea for the corporation from the ethers or the founder. It originated somewhere out there, inventions too, new ideas. Harry Potter comes in. And then what they do with it is how it manifests as the corporation. And navigating in a world that is filled with so much different color, many colors in energies, they can get the idea of the corporation or the goal that essence wanted can get a little clouded. So when we go into the records, the corporation actually has a different essence than the founder. It's like a quantum essence that I can feel, and it's different. And in one case, it was like a personality, and it was just speaking. It was speaking to its founder because they co-created. So yeah, there's a lot more to do with this because we can help. Sometimes it might mean moving on. It might mean, dissolving the corporation, but that doesn't mean dissolving the energetic match that the corporation was made of. So I had that in one case with a multi-billion-dollar company, and the CEO was nervous about selling the company, and the essence of the corporation basically said, this is just the name you gave me for these products. We have more work to do. So just pick a price, sell it, and let's move on together and create the next big thing. Yeah, really, like I'm learning so much. So no, I haven't done Hollywood yet. And I don't know how I would do that, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, that makes sense, and how fascinating that the corporation has its own energy, its own dynamic.
Yes.
That's really
There's a
beautiful.
book. Yeah, there's a book by Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Mm,
And it's called Big Magic. And it's a very fast read too. And in it, she talks about the essence of creativity and how it is out there to begin with, and it's looking for its co-creator and a match to its energy so that it can become manifest. It's a really good book, and it made sense to me. People say, well, people will ask people who have invented things, where did that come from? Not too many people go, well, I thought of it, unless they're steeped in patriarchy. But that's just not how it works. Just
mm.
isn't how it works.
True. Very, very true.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, we are all connected to that source energy. We are that source energy. And when we learn to tap into that, that is when those inspirations and that guidance just flows through, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It's beautiful. And
Mm,
I don't know how you feel about this, but I love knowing that I'm not responsible 100%, of what's coming out. Plus, I love not knowing. When we get an idea, no matter what it is, it doesn't just have to be creativity. But when we get something, it's really nice to not know where it's going to go, but you kind of get a sense like there's something important here. It happened for me with the records because as I began to hear blocks of thought that were not mine, I was doubting of it. And, I would take it to, would take these readings in the very beginning, back in 2008, to my wife and say, I don't know, is this my imagination? And she would get emotional and she'd say, she said to me, you don't even speak this way. You're tapping into something. And so the more I work in the records, the more I expand, and I don't know where it's going to go. I love the not knowing. And I think that's something we should talk, not now, but that people need to talk a little bit more about being familiar with not knowing where something is going,
mm,
right?
yes.
And it's not giving up your power at
Mhm.
all. And I think that gets misinterpreted in that way. It's just surrendering to something that was already in you and knowing that your inner self it has your, it has your back. It's for your highest good. And so to the mind, to tell the mind, it doesn't matter. We don't have to know where this is going yet. It's okay not to know. And by not knowing and not needing to know, it opens up a portal for more flow from source and from inside ourselves back and forth
Mhm.
to be even bigger and greater. It's okay to be great, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that really is that mystery and magic of the divine feminine, that gestational void where we don't actually know yet. And that liminal space, it's just like being in the womb space. We are in between. We haven't quite been born yet into this world, and we're not completely in the spirit world anymore either. And that
Right.
trusting and surrendering to that is perhaps one of the biggest challenges and the biggest blessings. I mean, I've just gone through a whole year myself of being in this chrysalis phase of not quite knowing who I am anymore and what my work is supposed to look like and what I'm becoming and what my work is becoming. And boy, is it challenging at times to trust and be in that not knowing.
Yes.
The more you can surrender, the more, as you say, those portals start to open.
And another resource that we have that I have been guided to and I've been using myself is our the guide our guides. Now, people know we have guides with us, but they'll talk about the collective guides. There are specific non-physical energies and beings way more outside of third dimension than are the 8 or 9 billion people on the planet. And we have access to them. And I keep hearing, please call on us, and to be very specific. So, um, as an example, I call on Mary Magdalene, and I didn't grow up immersed in the Bible or anything about her story. I didn't know much about Mary Magdalene. But I now know more about Mary Magdalene. I actually wrote a screenplay, modern storyline, based on new information that had been channeled, not through me, someone else, of Mary's life, speaking of the divine feminine. And I would love to say a little bit about that if we can right now.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Okay, so Mary was perceived by, well, we could call those Romans at that time were massively patriarchal. Um, so of course we know her, the perception of her was that she was a whore, basically. Nope. Um, she was came from the lineage of Isis and learned the divine feminine ceremonies that Isis came from the Isis lineage of the power of the womb and coming into that power. This is what she was all about. And she and Jesus had they were part of a design. They knew they were part of the design. And we all have that. We come in and we meet people. We know that we meet people because there's some reason we're coming together. It's the same thing. So they had this massive design that their souls agreed to. And when he was crucified, it was not um, what I'm understanding, and I'm resonating with this, by the way, when I heard this, it was part of that design, right? But it wasn't like God made him do it and whatever. It was the nature of that time. The time was that the message that he was sharing and that she was sharing, which was now what we call Christ consciousness, that we are all the same and we are all very powerful. And there was an immense love between him and Mary, like that, like there was a love that transcended human love. That's
Mm.
how powerful it was. And so, yes, there was this event, the crucifixion. When he came off the cross, he wasn't dead. They brought him into the cave, and she was there, and Miramne and all the usual crowd at that time, the family. She she alchemized. She knew alchemy. This is the divine power, divine feminine, sacred feminine. I have chills as I say this. She literally moved and transmuted his cells back to homeostasis. And he was alive and remained alive. and she went to France and he went to India to teach. And they came back together around when he was 70. Now, there are people that are going to hear this and they go, "You're absolutely insane. How can you say this? Blasphemy, whatever." This is what has been coming through. And if you look around, there are more channelers that don't know each other that are getting the same message. So look at the divine. So look at the difference in the roles. So the world has said that Jesus was the only one who knew everything and he was it up on a pedestal. That's not where he wanted to be. And Mary was this little whore in a corner. And it's like, wait a minute, could it have been the opposite? Certainly equal.
Mm.
Was she equal to him? Absolutely. So what does that say? Now history unfolds and there's this perception of women. Even today, look at the sex trafficking that's coming up and being unveiled. And women, the rings this is a global, it's so big that we can't even, our minds can't contain it. It's so big. And it's like this perception of women that has continued throughout history with this misperception and false story of Mary Magdalene. And it's like, wait a minute, is that false? Yes. She was not that.
Mm.
So when you look at it that way, and I just hope that there are men and women that will go, wow, like, yeah, and feel the truth of that. Because when truth comes in, you feel it. You resonate. You don't, your mind can't even come in and go, that's not right.
Mm.
And when I was hearing this and then wrote this story that I wrote, Mary Magdalene
Mm.
came through me when I was writing, and I felt her. And what I now do, getting back to like when we're going through those times in our lives, where, as you had mentioned earlier, what's my next, what am I doing next? I'm at this pivotal point, whatever. That's the main question that most people come to the records about, including me. And they come to have readings about. Um, we have the ability to call on, literally invoke specifically anyone who we are connected with somehow, right? Connected and for me, I don't know, I connect with Mary Magdalene. And so I will ask her, I will invoke her essence. This is just my wording I use, but specifically invoke her for something that I'm going through. And I'm telling you, Emmy, 100% of the time, 100% time will go by and I'll realize, wow, that got resolved.
Mm.
That got solved. Like I almost forgot it got solved because it was so smooth. And it could be health issues. I ask her to work on my cells sometimes, or
Mm.
if I can't sleep at night, I will call on Mary and just say, please just bring some calm my cells, bring me to a nice peaceful sleep to wake up, but to this peaceful, and it happens 100% of the time. It happened last night, same thing.
Mm.
So we have access to anyone that we resonate with. That's really, I think that should be the golden rule in a sense, if there is a rule that we feel connected to. And a lot of us, when we were little, we would connect with things that the people that we were drawn to, even if we didn't have access to them, that there's something there, there's some connection. And we're not here to do this all by ourselves. That's the message.
Mhm.
It's a giant co-creative soup that we're all in.
Yeah, I love that giant co-creative soup. Yeah, for sure. And I love what you're sharing about Mary Magdalene and Yeshua there. And I know for sure that the listeners of this podcast will resonate very strongly. And for me, Mother Mary is one of my main guides. And she, of course, just
Wonderful.
Yeshua and Mary Magdalene was a womb shaman and a very highly skilled priestess of the feminine arts. And
Yes.
the ultimate power of the divine feminine through divine conception, and then of course the alchemization of resurrection of people who might have passed on or not, but really as you shared there, the alchemization of the cells and heal
Yes.
the body and the mind. Absolutely. So very, very
And
potent guides.
the other interesting, speaking of again the sacred feminine, what I've been hearing a lot, and it's been through some few clients where they had a past life where they were a wife of a pharaoh,
Mm.
that the wives of the pharaohs That's the best way. That's what I hear the words, wives of the pharaohs. They were actually running the shows,
Mm.
right? And so there you have it again, but not known because of the patriarchy. And so, what does that mean, patriarchy? It's fear. Men who feel they have to do that, they're afraid of something. And so if we could just get through to them and show them that there's nothing to be afraid of, it can come back a little bit more. It can come into a new kind of balance, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, look at bullies. Bullies are afraid. They're afraid of something.
Hmm. Yeah.
They're steeped in fear.
Yes.
So, we need really powerful, no, we need feminine warriors right now. True feminine warriors. Not the ones that are women in drag.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Who are in deeply in touch with their divine feminine and masculine within themselves and
Yes, yes.
that sense of
Hmm.
unity. Yeah, for sure. Well, Mary, I could talk to you for hours about all of this, but I do want to make sure that we also touch on your book. Congratulations on the
Thank
Akashic
you.
Way. Would you please share a little bit more about the content of the book and how it came to be?
Sure, sure. So from when I began working in the records, I was really working on myself in the records. So I never went into working in the Akashic realm as a way to like have a business or a brand or anything. It just didn't begin that way. So it began in it was very pure. It still is. So um, I began to do I was doing my own readings. And when I studied at the Center for Akashic Studies, that's what we were doing. We were opening each other's records in the classes and our own. And so I would be getting down, I would bring my own issues, right, to the records. So I'm a living example. That's why I call it the Akashic Way, that when we take our lives issues and challenges and questions, things we need clarity about, when we run them through the lens of our own records, it's so empowering. It's not something outside of ourselves. It triggers a remembering of who we really are and that everything really is okay, that we get to choose. So that was beginning for me. And I, of course, saved all my own readings because I would be at my computer, I would type in my questions while in my records, and they didn't just answer the usual questions like, oh, I'm concerned about my weight, help me with this, or I'm living in New York City now, I'm not feeling right, blah, blah, blah. And they would answer and help me. They, meaning my own higher self speaking to me, would, they're actually the energies that oversee our records, I should clarify. Then they would go off and talk more about like humanity and the bigger meaning of the things that I was asking about. And and so I didn't even think of a book then. But then years in, maybe 5 or 6 years into doing my own readings, I started to read for people. And in the beginning, I wasn't taking any money. It was like, no, don't do that. And then I got to the level where then I got the accreditation from the center. And then I was sort of a practicing practitioner. And then the records in one of my own readings said, your records show you writing a book. And I didn't, I was like, I don't know how to do this. And my own record said, where your higher energies were overseeing your records, we will be with you every step of the way. And it will be so easy that you will question it. And so I started, the first thing they said was collect, print out all of your readings from the beginning of when you did this. So I did. And it was in a book, a folder this big. And then they said, go back into each reading, open your records again, and we will impart to you what maybe needs more explanation or more expansion on some of these ideas. So then I began to do that. But it was like a 4 year process. I resisted it, I have to say, because I kept thinking, well, who's going to care about my little journey with my little things I'm working out? That bothered me. And I tried to separate out, so it's part memoir now the way it is, but I tried to pull apart my own little everyday questions from the bigger things they were talking about. And I couldn't. I
Mm.
just kept trying to pull it apart. And that was me. That was my ego trying to come in and go, who's going to care about the fact that you wanted to lose weight? You know, things like that. So I left it all. And then once I surrendered to, okay, that's what it's going to be, it began to flow.
Mm.
And that's how it was formed. And so it is my journey in the records as a living example of how the records help us and how the records, our own records, can help us navigate back to why we chose to be here.
Mm.
So that's what the book, and the book, I didn't know that's what it was about until it was almost complete. And it began, even to this day, there are people that read it and they get things. And I think to myself, wow, I didn't even think of that. And that's a testament to the power of divinity itself. It's a quantum realm, and it moves about and meets us always where we are.
Mm.
So to this day, I can open up my book or any of my readings that I would did myself for myself, and I read them and they're brand new. And I go, I don't remember this. This is amazing what the records are saying, which is how it is when we pick up the scrolls or we're near sacred texts, right? Or
Mm.
we go into a cave somewhere where, let's say, Mary Magdalene's cave, where she healed, that table is still there. Um, you get something, something happens to you. Well, what is that? That's the quantum divine energy never dies. It's still moving about. So that's why this book is not like etched in stone. It can't be. Yeah. So that's how it became a book.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing about that. And
Mm-hmm.
I,
Sure.
I certainly can feel that energy myself. I haven't finished the book yet, but I've started reading it. And yeah, it has a very beautiful, pure vibration to it.
Right? I know. And I'm still in awe of that. It's the whole thing is so trippy to me and in a beautiful way. And I love that. And I think the day that I'm not in awe of, not I don't mean the book, but just this whole idea of, for me, the Akashic Records and divine itself. If I ever have a day when I'm not in awe, then then there's something up. Then I'm not actually then I'll feel like a fraud, right? But I just allow it. That's all we have to do. And we allow it and we allow it. And then knowing that it is real is number one. When people ask, what do how come some people can access them and some can't? Well, are you thinking you know them, or are you truly knowing you know that there is this divine realm? There's a difference, right?
Yeah, yeah, there is a
Mm-hmm.
difference. Beautiful. Well, Mary, you have shared so many powerful, potent messages with us in a short amount of time. I'm grateful for that. And I know that you have a gift for our listeners as well.
Yes, a free chapter in from my book, and the chapter that, well, I opened my records and asked, what would you like people to hear? And it was this chapter called the Eco Soup. So there's a link. Do you have that link?
I do. Yeah,
Uh,
I'll include the link in the show notes for
I think
everybody.
it's the akashicway.com/chapter.
Yeah,
Yes.
I will make sure that the link is included.
Okay. Yeah. So it's about the ego soup, and it's very appropriate for today. It makes sense. It's a little, I like to say, twisty, like divine twisties, where you kind of read it and you go, wait a minute, what? And then, but you get it, but your mind doesn't know why you get it.
Mm.
That's what this is about, because it's about the ego being tricky. And this is what Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about. He calls it a monster.
Right.
And the records refer to Eckhart as an ascended master among us, which I'm not surprised about.
Oh,
Hmm.
how fascinating. I love that.
I know, me too. Me too. Yeah. So you're welcome to read that. Any of your listeners, watchers, listeners.
Thank you so much for sharing that gift with all of us. I'm looking forward to finishing the book and diving deeper
You're
into
welcome.
the Akashic Records myself as well. And
Hmm.
yeah, thank you for sharing about your own story so vulnerably and openly, because I know that's in and of itself is medicine for those of us who get to hear that. And
Yes.
thank you for doing the work that you do. It feels and I know is very, very powerful. And especially in these times of change and transformation that we are in, makes a huge difference on our planet and beyond. So thank you for doing.
And thank you for recognizing all of that, right? You're obviously a mirror, a beautiful mirror for divinity itself. And that's really, yeah, I feel that. And that's so important right now because when we're mirroring divine itself, we are 100% purely authentic. You can't not be authentic if you're really mirroring the divine, which is really us. I always have to say that. So you're doing that and you exude that. So yes.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much for saying that. That means a lot to me. And thank you, Mary, for your time today. Thank you for being on the show. And once again, thank you for all that you do in our world.
Thank you too. You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Now, everybody, just for a moment, let's bring our awareness to this beautiful, powerful energy that's been activated during our conversation. And imagine sending this energy to everyone and everything on our planet to truly remember that we are all one. And that the more of us have the courage to step into our sacred feminine power and remember, truly remember that we are divine, as Mary says, the more quickly our planet will also heal and ascend. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of this show.